welcome back to our course on modern web development. In our previous lesson, we explored the basics of JavaScript, including variables, data types, and operators. Today we'll take a significant step forward by learning about control structures. So, control structures are essential in programming because they allow us to control the flow of execution in our programs. They enable us to make decisions, repeat actions, and handle different scenarios based on dynamic conditions. This means our programs can react differently depending on user input, data retrieved from servers, or any other conditions that may change at runtime. So, by mastering control structures, you'll be able to write code that is not just a static sequence of instructions, but the dynamic and flexible set of operations that can handle a wide variety of tasks and will ensure a smooth user experience and will also help you in making your final project, which is an AI-powered application. So let's start with if-else statements. One of the most fundamental control structures in any programming languages. An if-else statement allows your program to execute a certain code only if a specified condition is true. So if the condition is false, the program can execute alternative code. So let's navigate back to REPL-IT, the online code editor I use to run the code straight from the browser. You can also use it to complete your homework and other exercises. So the basic syntax would be if condition double brackets so code to execute, else double brackets again, code to execute if the previous condition is false. So let's break down this code. So the condition is an expression that evaluates to a Boolean value, either true or false. If the condition evaluates to true, the code blocks inside the if statement is executed. And if the condition evaluates to false, as we can see, an else block is provided, the code inside the else block is executed. So let's actually test with some examples with a simple if-else statement. So let's define a basic program. So let temperature equal to 30. And if temperature if temp is greater than 25, for instance, double brackets, console log, let's local results, it is hot outside. And if our condition is false, then it is not hot outside. So let's actually run this code and check if we made any mistakes. So node script.js, and as we can see, it is hot outside because our temperature is greater than 25, so it evaluates the true. So in this example, if temperature is greater than 25, the message "it is hot outside" will be logged. Otherwise, "it is not hot outside" will be logged. So let's dive into a more advanced example with chained conditions with else if. So sometimes you need to check multiple conditions, and you can chain multiple else if statements to handle various scenarios. So in the example 2, if else statement. So let's define our score. So let's score equal to 85, for instance. And let's just copy this code to make it faster. So, and let's break down our code. So in this example, the program checks each condition in order. So the first condition, if score is greater or equal to 90, evaluates to true, will have its code executed, and the rest will be skipped. If none of the conditions are true, the code inside the else block, so here, will be executed. So why use if-else statements? They allow your program to make decisions and execute code conditionally. They're also essential for handling different scenarios in inputs, as well as they enable dynamic and responsive code behavior. So after we've done with if-else statements, let's actually move on to the next topic, which is called for loops. So next we'll discuss for loops. which are powerful tools for performing repetitive tasks efficiently. So essentially, a for loop allows you to execute a block of code a specific number of times, which is especially useful when you need to iterate over arrays or perform operations a set of number of times. So let's navigate back to RebelIT, and I will show you the basic syntax of for loops. So for initialization condition update and double brackets and code to be executed in each iteration. So let's explain actually the components. So initialization, this one, typically used to initialize a counter variable. It runs once at the beginning of the loop. So usually initialization will be equal to 0 in most of the programs, basic programs. So condition. The loop continues to execute as long as the condition is true. So I is less than 5, for instance. And update. Update executes after each iteration of the loop. So usually it increments or decrements the counter. So to increment the counter, we use double plus sign, so I plus plus, and our semicolon. So let's write a sample program which will be counting numbers. So for let I equal to 1, I is less or equal to 5, and we will increment I each time it iterates. And inside we will log our results. So iteration number plus I. And let's actually run this code and check if we made any mistakes. So node script.js. Yeah, and as we can see, iteration number 1, iteration number 2, and so on, it is correctly executed, and our loop properly iterated over the numbers. In our case, 5. So 5 numbers. So yeah, once again, initialization, we declared it to be 1. We start counting from 1. Condition, the loop will continue as long as I is less than or equal to 5. And update, so after each loop, I increases by 1. So yeah, and here's the output once again. So what are the use cases for loops? So there are several and main use cases for loops, and one of them is iterating over arrays or lists, repeating a task a known number of times, and generating sequences of numbers. So let's actually loop through an array as another example and a more advanced one. So let's declare a list which we call fruits. So on this list will include fruits like apple, banana, and cherry. So let's iterate. For let I equal to 0. Oops. I will be less than fruit's length, and we'll increment each time. Okay, double brackets, and we will log all results. I like fruits, and we will print each indices in the list. So now let's run our code. And as we can see, the output is I like apple, I like banana, and I like cherry. So our program iterated through every item in the list and printed the results. Okay, so now as we completed our for loops, let's move on to while loops. So another important looping construct is the while loop. So you can think of while loop as a part of for loop, but it has a different meaning and in the context. So unlike the for loop, which is ideal when you know the exact numbers of iterations, a while loop is better suited for situations where you want to continue looping as long as a certain condition remains true. So for instance, for a loop, we have to know how many times we want to iterate or how many numbers in the list, for instance, but while loop, we just execute it until the condition becomes false. So we're not certain about the final result, so we just print or execute the code until the whole program becomes false. So the basic syntax of while loop will be this. So how it works: before each iteration the condition is evaluated, and if the condition is true, the code block inside the loop is executed, and if the condition is false, the loop terminates, and the program continues with the next statement after the loop. So let's actually write an example which will count down our numbers. So let count down equal to 5, and while count down will be greater than 0, double brackets, will local results count down plus count down. And when we stop using the while loop and it evaluates to false, we'll print blast off. So let's run our code and check. Oops. Okay, we've made a mistake. I think we forgot our bracket. 1 second. Oh yeah, we didn't forget our bracket. We forgot to decrement our value of countdown. So with each evaluation to true, our countdown will decrement itself. Yeah, and as we can see in the output, we can see countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's decrements until we run out of values, and it just prints blast off when our expression evaluates to false. So the key points are: make sure the condition will eventually become false, or you'll create an infinite loop. The variable controlling the loop, in our case it's countdown, in this case, must be modified within the loop. And let's go through some use cases for while loops. So when the number of iterations is not known beforehand, reading input until a certain condition is met, or waiting for a certain state or event. And now let's move on to more advanced topics, which are switch statements. So now let's explore switch statements, which provide a cleaner and more organized way to handle multiple conditions based on the value of a single variable or expression. So why use switch statements? So first of all, they improve code readability when dealing with many possible values of a variable, and they're more efficient than multiple if-else statements in some cases. So let's go through the basic syntax. Let me just copy this and paste it here. So important notes to make. So the break statement prevents fall through, where the code continues executing the next case even after a match is found. And essentially without break, all subsequent cases after the matched one will be executed, which is usually undesirable. So let's write an example, which will be days of the week. So let's delete this and paste this code here. And now let's break it down. So depending on the value of the number, the corresponding case block is executed. If the number does not match any case, the default block will be executed. So let's clear our console first, and let's run this code. Node script. Oops. Script.js. So yeah, as we can see, today is Wednesday. Our code executed correctly. Okay, so moving on to the nested loops and loop control statements. So lastly, let's discuss nested loops and how to control loops using break and continue statements. So nested loops is a loop inside another loop. So they're commonly used for working with multidimensional data structures like matrices, which we will talk about later. So let's create a more advanced example, which is a multiplication table. So let's delete this code and write our program. So for let equal to one, I is less or equal to 3, and we'll increment each time. Double brackets. And another nested loop. Let j equal to 1, j less or equal to 3, and we will increment value of j each time. And another square bracket here. And let's define our product, which will be I times j. And let's log all results. So console log. Oops, I forgot to declare our variables. Okay, now we're good. So I plus x plus j plus equal sign plus product. Okay, we forgot our square brackets. Okay, now here we go, and let's run our program. Yeah, and as we can see, we get the output of a basic multiplication table. So loop control statements. So break statement. It terminates the loop entirely and transfers control to the statement immediately following the loop. So for example, okay, let's delete this one and jump straight into the break statements. So here, the output, let's actually run this code first. And I equal to 1, I equal to 2. So what they essentially do is, once again, they terminate the loop entirely and transfer the control to the statement immediately following the loop. And continuing to the continue statement. So continue statement skips the current iteration and continues with the next iteration of the loop. So for example, let's copy this code, paste it here and run it. And we'll get this, right? Because it continues our statement. So when do we use break and continue statements? We use break statements when we need to exit the loop early, perhaps because we found what we're looking for, and we use continue statements when you need to skip over certain iterations based on the condition. So now it's time for an exercise. If you're still here, congratulations, you're doing a very good job. So now let's apply what we've learned with a practical exercise. So your objective would be to create a program that generates a multiplication table for a number between 1 and 10. So since we're working outside of a browser environment and prompt isn't available in Node.js, we'll simulate user input by assigning a value directly to a variable. So let's declare a variable, let number equal to 5. Now let's validate our input. So we use an if-else statement to check if the number is within the valid range. So we copy this code. And after that, we print a special message for number 5. So use a switch statement to display a special message if the number is 5. And generate the multiplication table. So use a for loop to calculate and display the multiplication table up to 10. So let's actually run our program. So as we're not dealing with inputs right now, we just assigned a variable, a number 5. So you enter 5, which is a special number, and it will give us our multiplication table. So as you can see, 5 times 1 equals 5, 5 times 7 equals 35. So our program works correctly, and you can check your the exercise here if you also got it. So moving on to conclusion. Excellent work today, guys. So we've covered a lot of ground, learning how to control the flow of our JavaScript programs using if-else statements, loops, and switch statements. These control structures are fundamental tools that will allow you to build dynamic, efficient, and interactive applications. So understanding how to make decisions in your code and how to perform repetitive tasks efficiently is very, very important as you move forward in your coding journey on your way to build your first AI application. So in our next lesson, we'll dive into functions and scopes, which will enable you to write reusable code blocks and organize your programs more efficiently. So remember, once again, practice is key to mastering these concepts. So try out different scenarios, experiment with the code, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Thank you.